I've spent more than 2 weeks with the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, and this thing might just be my next full-time phone. Now that I've got final ready-to-ship software on my Mate 20 Pro, I'll cut to the chase on why it'll probably be the next phone in my pocket. The display, audio performance, and once again the camera. And why, as is the case with most Huawei phones, there are still some software trade-offs. Take a second to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll jump in. So after dealing with the giant beast of a phone, the Galaxy Note 9, for the past couple of months, it's been refreshing to go back to a phone that is a little more one-handable. Not that the Mate 20 Pro isn't big, but with 19.5 by 9 proportions, the 6.4-inch display diagonal is pretty easy to fit into one hand. As we've been over in earlier videos, the design of this phone not only looks great, but helps a lot with ergonomics and hand feel. To be fair, Samsung got here a lot longer ago with phones like the Galaxy S8 that had curved OLED, rounded size, and minimal bezels. But look, good design is good design. Huawei also isn't treading water in terms of display or audio. The 2K OLED panel has excellent brightness, narrowly beating the Google Pixel 3 in daylight visibility, while producing colours that are punchy but not excessively saturated. In fact, if you're coming from an older OLED phone, things may look a little less vivid than you're used to. Huawei also has its own version of Apple's True Tone display technology, which adjusts the white balance to match the surrounding light temperature. The idea behind this is it makes whites look more natural in whatever environment you're in, and it works pretty well. There's no headphone jack included, though that's nothing new for Huawei. Instead, it does provide a headphone dongle in the box, along with a pair of pretty unremarkable USB-C headphones. What's pretty clever is the way Huawei's doing on-device audio. There's no visible bottom-firing speaker, instead the sound is actually projected out of the cavity around the USB port. That means it's a little quieter when plugged in, but most of the time it works a lot better than you might think. So compared to most flagships out there, the Mate 20 Pro puts in a solid audio-visual performance. I haven't particularly missed the front-facing speakers of the Pixel 3 series, nor does the fairly large display notch bother me all that much. For me, the trade-off of having really great face unlock is absolutely worth a little bit of lost screen space. It's good that that's there, of course, because, as I mentioned in part 1 of this review, the in-screen fingerprint is far from flawless. The Mate line has always been about power and performance, and Huawei's new Kirin 980 chip is the centerpiece of the Mate 20 Pro, coming with the bragging rights of being more powerful and efficient than any other chip in an Android phone. That's because it's the first outside of an iPhone with a 7nm manufacturing process, the first to use the new ARM Cortex-A76 cores and the new Mali G76 GPU. Bottom line is that on paper, everything is faster and more efficient. And that's really impressive, on paper, but most of the time you probably won't be able to tell. This thing feels just as fast as any other high-end Android flagship, with perhaps a little bit of an edge in high-end gaming. But then again, it's been a while since SoC performance has been a thing holding back Android phones. For me personally, the thing I've really appreciated the most is the extra efficiency, and the fact that this chip, this phone, and this 4200 mAh battery can guarantee me at least a day and change between charges. The only caveat there is if I'm out shooting photos all day, then yeah, by evening it's time to reach for the charger, but that applies to other high-capacity smartphones as well. So not only is the Mate 20 Pro the best phone I've used this year in terms of battery life, squeezing ahead of the Galaxy Note 9, but it's also the fastest to charge by a very wide margin. On one of those days where I did need an evening top-up, the bundled 40W supercharger took me well clear of the danger zone in around just 15 minutes. The giant battery too helps enable the Mate 20 Pro's most showboaty feature of all. Not only can it charge itself wirelessly via Qi-compatible pad, but it can also charge other phones. You know, in case you want to be designated power bank for your iPhone-owning friends. I've already talked about the Mate 20 Pro's cameras in the first part of this review, but this is a really fun camera setup to use, and the ability to flick between wide angle, a normal angle, and a 3x telephoto, and a 5x hybrid zoom is hugely empowering for touristy photos in a new city or just everyday stuff. Juggling between those cameras can be a little clumsy though due to the number of taps required, and I do wish software processing in shots between 1x and 3x was a little better. Quality seems to take a little bit of a hit in this no man's land between a 40MP digital crop and the 8MP telephoto. And Huawei still hasn't fixed this bug where 4K footage will warp around the edges when using AI stabilization. At the same time, it's worth noting that Huawei is the only top-tier company not offering 4K recording at 60fps, and while a lot of noise was made about the AI video modes ahead of launch, in reality they're kind of gimmicky and I didn't find them all that useful. I also want to address one point that's been brought up recently, and that's night mode. A lot of you want to know if the Mate 20 Pro's night mode is as good as the Pixel 3's unreleased but kinda leaked night mode that's available now as a sideloadable app. The answer is that it's very situational, but I think Google is ahead here. That's not a knock on the Mate 20's cameras, which can still take exceptional low-light snaps, including with the wide-angle lens, something which the Pixel lacks, but it's more that Google's pulling off some insane wizardry to get the kind of shots that they are in low light. Obviously this Pixel 3 night mode isn't officially available yet, but if it's anywhere near this level of quality when it launches, it'll be as game-changing as Huawei's night mode was when it debuted back on the P20. Finally, it wouldn't be a Huawei phone review without some software weirdness to go over, but I want to state up front that I'm mostly fine with this latest version of Emui. Emui 9 actually includes some useful tweaks like the natural color mode I mentioned earlier, as well as a much appreciated visual overhaul, well, in some areas anyway. You still have a jarring mix of square and circle app icons, which I'm not a huge fan of, and the app drawer looks like it belongs on a phone from 2015, plus the lock screen borrows a little bit too much from iOS. It's still frustrating to only be able to see notifications that have popped up since your last unlock. Plus, my biggest gripe with the Mate 20 Pro's recent apps menu, the animation weirdness when you use a 3-button setup, is still here, and Huawei has done nothing to fix the bug in its gesture implementation that breaks picture-in-picture mode in streaming video apps like YouTube. But put that next to the laundry list of complaints I had with the Mate 10 series a year ago, and these are all fairly minor things. Emui certainly isn't the prettiest or most modern-looking Android interface, but I certainly don't hate it. And look, maybe I'm just conditioned to expect more software weirdness when I use a Huawei phone, but these things just don't bother me all that much anymore. The user experience for sure is rougher around the edges than Google's, Samsung's, or even HTC's. It's a different balance between polish and power compared to most other phones out there. If you want a polished and intelligent user experience, there's nothing better than the Google Pixel 3 series right now. But on the other hand, if you can deal with one or two bugs and a UI that's not as streamlined, the Mate 20 Pro will reward you with unmatched battery life, great performance, and an incredibly versatile camera. For me personally, it's easily a top 3 phone for the year, and it's probably what I'll be using until the first wave of 2019 flagships rolls around. That's it for now. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of our Mate 20 coverage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.